Welcome into the Commanders Report. I am your host, Jack Sperry, and today we unveil a video that we have been planning for a very long time. Today, we're going to be breaking down my plan, my perfect offseason plan for your Washington Commanders. We're going to be talking head coaching search. We're going to be talking free agency. We're going to talk about players to re-sign. We're even talking a full Commanders 3-round mock draft. Make sure you guys stick around for that. But first, make sure you click that subscribe button and join our family right here on the Commanders Report, because all offseason long, every time the Commanders make a move, when they hire their new head coach, if they make a move for a quarterback, if they sign players in free agency, whatever the case may be, if there's breaking news for the Washington Commanders, we are going to have you covered with a video. We're also going to be letting you guys know everything you need to know leading up to NFL free agency. Which players are the Commanders going to be targeting? Which players make sense to sign given the amount of cap space that they have, and then also in-depth NFL draft coverage. We're going to be breaking down all of the top quarterbacks in this year's NFL draft, and then we're also going to be having extensive scouting reports on all the top prospects this year. And oh yeah, it's all 100% free. So if you love the Washington Commanders, go ahead, click that subscribe button right now, because it's going to be a very massive offseason. And speaking of this offseason, man, there's so much to be excited about with this Washington Commanders football club, man. They just hired their new GM in Adam Peters. He was my number one choice to be the new general manager here. I think Josh Harris absolutely knocked that one out of the park. They're going to be bringing in a new coaching staff in the coming days and weeks here. Also, they got the most cap space out of any team in the National Football League heading into the offseason. If they decide to restructure contracts and all this different stuff, they could even get close to $100 million in available cap heading into free agency. They also have the number 2 overall draft pick, putting them in position to draft a future franchise quarterback. And they have 5 draft picks in the top 100 picks in this year's NFL draft. So it's going to be a very, very exciting times here on the Commanders Report. So on today's show, it's going to be divided into 3 different segments. All right, number 1, the perfect Commanders coaching staff according to me. All right, I'm going to let you guys know head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. Then we'll go into free agency, which players the Commanders should sign with the league's most cap space heading into the offseason. And then we have my 3rd Washington Commanders mock draft of this season. You guys can go back on the channel and check out the first 2 if you would like after today's video. And before I get into the coaching staff here, a little bit of a disclaimer. This is not a prediction video. All right, I am not predicting that every single thing in this video is actually going to happen. This is an ideal version of what an offseason could look like for the Washington Commanders as we begin this journey. So first up here, let's start with the coaching staff, and let's start with the head coach here, and it is the betting favorite to be the next head coach of the Washington Commanders, Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. And I am absolutely in love with this guy right now, man. I think that he's the perfect fit for this organization. I think he's one of the top 10 offensive play callers in the game of football today, and he's super young, and I just think that this is the type of team where he's going to want to go to, because he can shape it in his image, get the quarterback that he wants, sign the players he wants in free agency, and then he has supportive ownership as well. So I think this is a very attractive job for the top head coaching candidates in the league this year. You look at Ben Johnson's offense and kind of the staples of his offense there with the Detroit Lions. Lots of under center. And really what it is, it's a modern pro-style offense. So back in the 90s and 80s, lots of tight formations, lots of under center, lots of play action. And Ben Johnson has kind of revolutionized that style of offense to fit the modern game in the National Football League. Lots of under center, lots of quick 3- and 5-step drops from under center, lots of play action, and then also something that he does really well is that he mixes it up in the run game. There's a lot of schemes in the National Football League that prioritize outside zone or inside zone, but Ben Johnson, this is something that reminds me a little bit of Kyle Shanahan. He'll run trap, he'll run pin and pull, he'll run counter. And he'll also do the outside zone and inside zone stuff as well. But this is somebody that has a run game that is extremely, extremely, extremely tough to corral. And then also he loves to attack the middle of the field. He finds creative ways to get the ball to his core players in space, evidenced by Amon-Ra St. Brown's breakout season here in 2023. The Lions offense, of course, top 10 in pretty much every single category that Ben Johnson has at least some semblance of control over. The giveaways were a little bit lower for them this year. They were number 1 in giveaways last year with Jerrod Goff as their quarterback. This year they dropped to 19th. But, man, top 5 in most offensive categories, top 10 in third down defense is the only category where they escape the top 5. So the guy that I think that he brings in to be his offensive coordinator is Jerrod Johnson, the quarterback's coach there for the Houston Texans. We all know how good C.J. Stroud has been in his rookie season, all right? It is a historic season for a rookie quarterback. No rookie signal caller has put up these kinds of numbers, let alone had a playoff game like he just had against the Cleveland Browns. 64% completions, over 4,000 yards, a fantastic touchdown to interception ratio, and one of the highest quarterback ratings we have ever seen from a rookie passer. And that's part of that is the development that Jerrod Johnson has been able to get out of C.J. Stroud, out of the Ohio State University here in his rookie season, along with offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick. And because Ben Johnson's going to be calling the plays here, your crop of guys that you could potentially get are going to be lower. But I really like Jerrod Johnson filling out that role as an offensive coordinator. And then as for the defensive coordinator, I think that because Ben Johnson, like I said, he's going to be the play caller, he's going to handle the offensive side of the ball, the DC here is going to be a very important job to fill. And if it were me and I had my pick of the litter, I would pick a Ejiro Evero, the former defensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers. And he runs a Fangio-style system similar to what Jack Del Rio ran here in Washington. But I think that it's an improved version because Ejiro Evero kind of, he mixes things up. He'll play man on third down. He'll play Tampa 2 from time to time. Lots of these Fangio-style defensive coordinators, all they play is cover 4 quarters and cover 6, all right? And that is the base of a Fangio-style defense. But you can't just play that all the time. You have to mix in cover 1. You have to mix in 2-man. You have to mix in Tampa 2 to keep offenses honest, and that's what Evero does. I think that he's really good at making adjustments, and, I think that this is a good hire because you have players that are tailor-made for a Fangio-style system already. Emmanuel Forbes, Kendall Fuller, Derek Forrest, all these different guys in the secondary, they're really good in this style of system, so I say let's just go and upgrade in this same school of thought. I really like Ejiro Evero as the pick for defensive coordinator. So let me know what you guys think of this perfect Washington Commanders staff, at least in my opinion. Grade it for me, A, B, C, D, or F. If these 3 coaches ended up being the main core of the Washington Commanders coaching staff next year, what would you think about it? This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So whenever you get a second here, go down in the comment section, find that pinned comment, and give me a grade for this new coaching staff. Now let's shift over to free agency, where the Washington Commanders will have the most cap space out of any team in the National Football League. Right now they have over $75 million to spend, and I really do think that they're going to prioritize a couple of players to re-sign before free agency even starts. So let's start with those players on who they need to re-sign, or at least who they should consider bringing back here before they try to get players from outside of the organization. So the 5 players that I'm really going to be looking to potentially try to bring back, of course, you got to get them for the right price, all right? Don't overpay for any of these guys, but I would love to bring Kendall Fuller back. Spotrac.com currently says you can get him back for a 3-year contract, $14 million per season. For somebody that has had the production of Kendall Fuller, that is a great deal. I would love to bring him back, especially in Ejiro Evero's offense. Curtis Samuel, good slot receiver, can use him as a running back as well. I like that gadget-type player. If you can get him for the right price, I would absolutely bring Samuel back. Jamison Crowder, really good punt returner. Casey Tuhill, a good rotational edge rusher. We're going to be signing some edge rushers in free agency to start. Don't want to start Tuhill, but he's a good rotational guy. And then Jeremy Reeves, the Pro Bowl special teamer, I would love to bring back as well. For a team-friendly contract. And you might be saying to yourselves right now, what about Cam Curl? Well, I don't want to necessarily re-sign him to a long-term contract. I want to franchise tag him. So essentially what that means is that he's going to be on another 1-year deal, and it's going to be at about $14 million as opposed to paying him a premium price to be one of the highest-paid safeties in the National Football League, which is what he would want with a multi-year contract. So I think the smart decision here, Cam Curl's one of the best safeties, strong safeties in the National Football League, in my opinion. You keep him in-house by franchise tagging him this offseason. Now let's get on to free agency and the players that I would bring in here from outside of the organization. And listen, you got all this cap space. You have a lot of room to work with here. And so let's take a look at the team needs heading into free agency. The free agency priorities in terms of positions that you want to go get. Some veteran players in, edge rusher, offensive tackle, center, inside linebacker, and kicker. I am not re-signing Joey Sly. I'm trying to get somebody else in the building. So I got 5 players here to start this haul here, and I do want to go out and get a guy like Josh Allen, a true number 1 edge rusher. I don't think that position can be addressed in the draft unless you straight up take an edge rusher in the first round, right? You just don't really see guys that can step into the National Football League on day 1 and be legit number 1 guys. On the other hand, if Jacksonville lets Josh Allen hit the open market, you can absolutely go out and get him. He would be a true number 1 guy right away. I think that he would be the ideal fit for this Washington Commanders defense under Ejiro Evero. Then you get Trent Brown to be an offensive tackle, whether it be on the left side or the right side. He can play both. He's been really good throughout his career, and I think that he'd be a great solid option. And he'll be the tackle that the Commanders thought they were getting in Andrew Wiley when they signed him last year in free agency. Frankie Louvu, one of the best inside linebackers in football, played with Evero there in Carolina. You got that connection right there. I actually think there's a pretty decent chance he does come here if you can get Evero as your DC. And then I'll take Connor Williams to be the new starting center. Had a PFF grade of 85.6. Really good grade there. And then Josh Uche, edge rusher there from New England. Just a 57.1 Pro Football Focus grade, which will drive his price down. But he was a top 15 edge rusher in 2022. Has incredible athleticism and speed and bend off the edge. I would love to pair him up with Josh Allen to be the starting edge duo here in Washington for years to come. And then maybe some luxuries here in free agency. I'd like to go get a receiving tight end. Noah Fant is somebody that can block and catch passes. I would love to get him here for a nice price. And then in terms of a kicker, I would go out and get Kaimi Fairbairn. A really good kicker, one of the best kickers in football this past season. If you bring him in, I would be pretty happy with that signing. And then, getting all these guys, it might be a little bit difficult depending on how much the price is going to be. So there are going to be some opportunities for Washington to restructure contracts. Terry McLaurin and Deron Payne are both under contract for multiple years. You could potentially front load their contracts here. Or backload, I should say. You could backload their contracts if you really need to make sure you can get the players that you want to help build the foundation of this football team. And then another way that you can build even more cap space if you need to is to make some cuts. And we've said that these 5 players are potential players that you could go out and cut if you really need to. Honestly, I don't really see the Commanders making too many cuts here. Just because there's not many players that really it makes a difference to cut. Now, Logan Thomas, maybe they do, maybe they don't. It kind of depends on who they hire as the next offensive play caller, but these are some options just in case. So coming up here, I got my 3rd mock draft for the Washington Commanders this offseason already. But before I get that going, in just a second, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Fanatics, and they're offering you guys a fantastic deal on a really stylish T-shirt combo here. You got the short sleeve burgundy. Really like the design on that one. Then you also got the white long sleeve that you can wear any time of the year. Even during the summer months, man, you can wear that white long sleeve. It's not going to be as heavy as like a black or a burgundy colored long sleeve. So you can really wear these 2 shirts any time of the year. And honestly, the offseason is the best time to take advantage of these deals on Commanders apparel. So take advantage of the deals right now. Go to chatsports.com/CommandersX2 to get your hands on this awesome Commanders t-shirt combo in your closet today. So let's start with the number 2 overall pick. I'm not going to do trades this time. So if you're sitting at number 2, I'm assuming the Bears are going to take Caleb Williams, number 1 overall. And honestly, man, I think Ben Johnson is going to look at Drake Maye, quarterback out of the University of North Carolina, as a perfect fit for his offense. I mean, you just look at the build and you look at the arm talent. It reminds you a little bit of Jerrod Goff. Now, when I look at Maye's film, All right, I've watched every single game, every single snap from his 2023 and 2024 season. This kid does have really good pocket presence. He can feel pressure, he can step up in the pocket, and he can deliver passes. And then he can also feel when pressure's coming, and he knows when to get outside the pocket. And maybe one of the more underrated aspects of his game is he's a really good playmaker outside of the pocket, which is really going to help him in the red zone in the National Football League. Caleb Williams is kind of on another level in terms of playmaking, but Drake Maye, that's definitely a strength of his game as well. He's also a plus runner. He's got great size, and he's got the arm talent, both the strength and the accuracy that you look for in a potential franchise quarterback. Now, the cons is that there are inconsistencies on his film with footwork, with mental processing, and decision-making, all right? Now, this past year at North Carolina, he had to overcome a lot, but I really do think that this kid is worth a top 2 pick in the National Football League draft this year. And if it wasn't for Caleb Williams being just kind of a generational talent, in my opinion, Drake Maye is absolutely worth the number 1 overall pick. So not only do I think that he has the talent to be worth this pick, but I think he's a great fit for Ben Johnson's offense that really requires a quarterback to have that size, to have that arm strength, and kind of play on schedule, which is a strength of Drake Maye's. All right, so what would you guys do if you were the new GM, Adam Peters? All right, so you're sitting there at number 2 overall in the NFL draft. Would you like to trade up for Caleb Williams? Would you like to stay put at number 2 and take Drake Maye? Or would you rather trade down from number 2, get more draft picks, and then maybe take like an offensive tackle or something like that and keep Sam Howell as your starting quarterback? Type TU for trade up, DM for Drake Maye, or TD for trade down. Now let's move this mock draft along here. Round 2 pick, I'm going to go Troy Fautanu out of the University of Washington. Has played left tackle for them, barely gives up any sacks. Now, he's got the physical profile more as a guard, but he just signed Trent Brown in this offseason plan. You can definitely work some things around. You can move Andrew Wiley into guard. You can maybe play Trent Brown at left tackle, start Troy Fautanu at right tackle. You could really mix and match some of these things. And if there's injuries, Troy can play either tackle or guard. So I really like this value right here. If Fautanu ends up falling to the second round to this number 36 overall pick, I think he would be a fantastic pick for this Washington Commanders team moving forward. Then we get to the second round pick at number 40 overall, where I have the Commanders taking a nice edge rusher prospect here in Chop Robinson from the Nittany Lions. And listen, you already signed Josh Allen and Josh Uche, but you got Chop Robinson to be a nice rotational piece in year 1, and then if you sign Josh Uche to like maybe a 1 or 2 year contract, by the time that contract expires, Chop Robinson's going to be ready to come in and be a bona fide starter for you. Has excellent production there with the Nittany Lions, and I really like his pass rushing skill set in terms of his tenacity. Then we get to round 3 here, where they get an inside linebacker to go along with Frankie Louvu and Jamin Davis, allow them to kind of rotate those guys. And I think Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is one of the best inside linebacker prospects that we have seen in quite a while. I would be a little bit surprised that if he got outside the second round, but in this Pro Football Focus mock draft that I did in the simulator, Jeremiah Trotter fell to me in round 3, and I couldn't pass up that opportunity. Really like Jamin Davis, really like Frankie Louvu, but Jeremiah Trotter is somebody that I think could be a really, really good linebacker in this league moving forward. And then in round 3, another player that I did not expect to fall to me in round 3 in this mock draft simulator, but it's Cedric Van Pran. And again, this is an ideal version of what you could see from the Washington Commanders in the 2024 NFL Draft. If you can get all 5 of these players right here, man, including Cedric Van Pran, in my opinion, the number 1 center in this year's draft class, you get your starting center right away. You get your starting quarterback right away. You get a starting offensive lineman right away. And then you get Chop Robinson and Jeremiah Trotter Jr., 2 guys that I think are going to be bona fide starters 2-3 years down the line. I think this would be a perfect day 1 and day 2 for Adam Peters to start his career as the general manager of the Washington Commanders. And listen, because of all the opportunities that the Washington Commanders have this offseason, brighter days certainly seem to be ahead, especially if they pull the trigger here on Ben Johnson, especially if they take advantage of the cap space that they have in free agency this year. I mean, you could definitely see, especially if everything comes to fruition in the way that I kind of see it coming to a head here, I definitely think that this organization can be one that could become a winner and establish a winning culture pretty darn quickly. And because of that, it's hard to not be optimistic heading into this offseason. All right, that'll be it for today's show, guys. I know it was a little bit of a longer one today, but I appreciate all the real ones that stuck with me here to the very end. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button right now for more Commanders offseason coverage all throughout the next couple of months.